team! Did you know about the Deaf Guild Undaunted? Yeah, entirely deaf players who have managed to overcome multiple mythic bosses. Incredible, using all in-game stuff, but one big advantage they have is they can see the screen. It's an incredible thing when playing a game. But a couple of weeks ago, we had a story sent into Drama Time about people who play the game blind. And I'm not talking about not knowing how the game works, literally blind. They can't see what the hell is going on. Yet they're in your dungeons, they're competing in your raids, they're doing all kinds of things because some wonderful people have been working behind the scenes to create add-ons and technology that can interface with World of Warcraft that allows you to play the game if you have a visual impairment. And first of all, I think it's super important to spread this information if you've got somebody who's got some visual ailments or something like that, who like doesn't play or can't play or just struggles with video games in general. They have the opportunity to actually play some World of Warcraft, which is extraordinary. And also, obviously, we want to try this out. How does this work? Have we got questions? All these kinds of things that come from this. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Let's get into this. Okay, rules for this. I am going to be doing this with a blindfold on. Now, despite Chris's efforts to simulate a more real-world scenario with blindness, I'll come back to that, is he made it so that the only things that would penetrate through this blindfold were very bright light. Because whether or not you know it, when you say somebody is blind, that doesn't necessarily mean that they only have pitch black vision. That's not the case. There are many, many grades of visual impairment, whether you've got cataracts and a variety of other things that really give you a distorted, blurry view. I will say this, Chris's attempt was to give me a very, very blurry view so that I could potentially make out like a quest marker as being a yellow blob or something like that. However, due to the lighting conditions at which I stream, I have a couple of lights that like beam on me to make me look gorgeous and beautiful, and all those things is that I couldn't make out anything on the screen. That will become very, very apparent. I might as well have just completely been totally blind, so that's what I'm going to be playing with. Secondly, I am not blind. Which means I do not have a lot of the tools and certainly don't have the muscle memory and experience with a lot of accessibility features that actually visually impaired people have, such as like a Braille keyboard, for example, and all these things pre-set up and I'm used to, right? When I talk about muscle memory, that's not just my fingers. I'm talking about actually using a lot of accessibility features as the normal in my day-to-day life if I had a visual impairment. So I am going to be the absolute worst case starting point here. If somebody you know has, or you have a visual impairment in one way and you just love listening to my gorgeous Manchester accent, then you will have an easier time. Some of these things are obviously easier to do with a sighted person helping you get set up, right? There is some assumption that you will have somebody in your life who can help you just do the initial setup and then you're free to go and play and do whatever you need to do. However, a lot of this stuff, if you do have these tools already, I think you can do, after I got used to it, completely visually impaired, because a lot of it is like keybinds and stuff. And the biggest issue I ran into was not knowing if I'd like opened the chat window, so a lot of my commands were actually going into the chat window rather than into the game input. However, one thing I will say, and this becomes very apparent, you start, even for my limited experience of having visual impairment, you start to realize that's probably what's going on, because the things that you should be hearing and the feedback the game should be giving you isn't quite correct. So you're like, oh, I probably am typing in the box here, so I'm just going to throw out an enter, and then things start working. So you get these definite feedbacks of, oh, it's not working or it is working, all right? First of all, the setup. The setup is not as involved as I thought it was going to be. You're going to need a bunch of add-ons, right? So classic ones like TomTom and text-to-speech, things like that, so it can actually interface with the game and sort of know where you are in order to point you where you want to go. The add-on developers have been phenomenal in putting every single quest into the game, similar to what you would have with like a leveling helper that many of you have probably used, and then being able to coordinate where you should be and where this quest goes and where the enemies are that you need to kill. My goal here was to do Exile's Reach, the starting area, right? So I wanted to get in there and try and complete Exile's Reach in a few hours and see how this would go.
Arrowkeys' quest log now.
Okay.
Objective 1. Objective 2. Objective 3. Objective 2. Objective 1. Exile's Reach quest Murloc Mania 31.
Yes.
Murloc Hideaway 4.1 Crossroads Murloc
right.
IDA 3P2. Murloc Hideaway 4.1 Crossroads Murloc IDA 3P2. Waylist closed. The closest map point to this is Murloc Hideaway 4.1 Crossroads Murloc.
Right, I've got multiple noises now.
0 more. Murloc Hideaway 4.1 Crossroads Murloc IDA 3P2.
A lot of the setup here actually involves just putting in key bindings. World of Warcraft has done a surprisingly amazing job of accessibility stuff, that things like interacting with targets, voiceovers when you target certain enemies, giving feedback on your personal HP because you can't see your health bar, being a audible beat, a heartbeat noise, that's all actually built into the game. There's nothing here that's not coming directly from the API, and it's kind of interesting in this world that we live in now, where people are like, get rid of all add-ons, is that we're seeing like add-ons being used in this really positive way, and that World of Warcraft has gone out of its way to make sure there are tools and things available, such as map coordinates. Where is your character stood? Like previously you'd use that to just figure out where the next treasure is, or the next rare spawn, something like that. But now being used in a totally different way. There are some things it doesn't do, which is kind of fun. I'll give you an example here of if there is a treasure chest nearby.
Seen Quillbore treasures. Quillbore warrior.
R0.
Quillbore warrior. Seen Quillbore treasures.
Where?
Bird of prey.
Give me the treasure chest.
Ogre overseer.
90%.
Sacrifice!
70%.
Being told there's a treasure chest nearby constantly, and I'm like, well, yeah, but where? Like, I don't know. But obviously that's anti-bot prevention, right? They're trying to make it so that bots can't find randomly spawned treasure chests that might have some really good juicy goodies in to destroy the economy and things like that. So it won't work for absolutely everything, and again, depending on your level of visual impairment, you're going to get a different kind of result. It can be a little bit of, like, if you fully can't see, like I couldn't, it's like, I get it, there's a chest nearby, but I don't know where it is. So let's get into what I found with this. Understandably, getting started with this was by far the hardest. I think the first hour I was doing this was definitely the most difficult, but also because there were some things I just hadn't configured properly because I'm an idiot. While I did remove all of my normal add-ons from WoW, so it was like a base game, so everything that we'd installed was working correctly, I still hadn't done things like reset all my key bindings that I have for all my actual played characters, right? So when I was trying to do things, I was like strafing instead of turning. I didn't have my camera auto adjust to behind me because I never want my camera to adjust in normal day-to-day gameplay, which leads to you pressing W, but your cameras and the arrow on like TomTom is pointing the wrong direction. And I'm like, what is going on here? So there was quite a few times in the first hour where I did have Chris come in and say, oh, okay, so you need to rebind strafe. You need to rebind X and Y. And ultimately what I did about an hour in was like, okay, stop. Let's reset everything to default, re-input the commands so we're actually starting at a base level. And now everything should work correctly, which it did. It was very cool. I set up a lot of keybinds that came with the add-ons, such as like optional things like, do you want to go to a city or a vendor or something like that? You get an arrow key and it'll tell you, it's like, you are now in the navigation menu. And you could go through like, I want to go here. And then you could change that to, oh, I want to go into the quest menu that I currently have. And I could choose, do you want to do objective 1, objective 2? Do you want to go back to the quest NPC? And that will work phenomenally well. Like, you're like, oh, I want to do objective 2. And then it tells you, like with a sound effect, oh, you completed that portion of the quest. Right, I'm spamming my...
Coastal goat neutral. Coastal goat. Prickly porcupine.
100%.
Coastal goat neutral.
60%.
R10.
Prickly porcupine. Coastal goat.
Okay.
Coastal goat
R0.
neutral.
I got one. One thing you do have to do, which I'm not used to and I doubt many people are, is really listen to what the quest is. I got stuck for about 20 minutes on one of the second quests, because I haven't done Exile's Reach in a long time, of collecting meat. That thing I found very easy, because it gave me a marker saying the enemies you need are around here somewhere. And you would understand that if you're not targeting anything, but you are in the right spot, because the sound effect will play is like you are here, is like they're probably respawning or something. And then by tabbing around, you will get like, oh, there's a goat nearby. Kill that. And then when you loot it, because you know the direction it's in, you can loot it, it will play a little noise. You got a quest item. And you're like, oh, that's... Okay, so these drop quest items. I now know goats do that. It's a very different way of playing because you're having to be very much more audible. What is the quest? Because I forgot I needed to cook the food. So I went back to the quest NPC, and I'm stood there, and I'm pressing it, and I'm like, trying to... Like, why is this not working? And then it started to occur to me. I was like, wait a minute. Am I supposed to cook the food? Okay, so do I need to cook? How does this happen? And this is where, again, what you can do is replay the quest text. That is so useful, is if you forget what your quest actually is, especially if you're doing escort missions, which you have to do, which is fine because you can follow along. A lot of this is done via follow, especially if you're in dungeons. You can follow a certain person, and then you can attack what's going on, and it'll read out mechanics for you. All that kind of stuff is done for you here. Is it actually works because you get your extra action button, which, you know, is super helpful, and then you'll cook the food and do all those kinds of things.
Underscore campaign quest. Underscore campaign quest. Underscore campaign quest.
Hold on. I'm not hearing any noises now. Oh, I think I fucked it up.
Underscore campaign quest. Underscore campaign quest.
Wait, there was a person. The hardest thing I did, but I was also much better at using this technology, was actually a full cave, where I had to do 2 quests at once, kill a named NPC, free somebody from a cage, and then also destroy some of the minions nearby. What actually occurred here was really eye-opening, is that I was able to recognize that I was completely stuck in a crevice, which happens a lot in World of Warcraft with the scenery, right? You can get stuck in a little rock. And although the arrow is pointing me in the right direction, there's a sound effect that plays if your character, if you're holding forward, but you're not moving, which means you're at a wall or something along those lines. Something's blocking you. And then you can sort of like keep doing a bit of trial and error very quickly. It's like, okay, I've got to go this way, and I can press jump. And now it's working because I'm not getting the sound. It's like, oh, okay, and I'm kind of guided my way through this in a very similar way, I suspect. Again, forgive my ignorance here, where you use the white cane to tap what's in front of you. Okay, there's something here. I need to go around it. Excellent. Okay, I can tap, and then sort of feel my... I actually started to paint in my mind an image of where I was. Like, it all started to make sense in like an almost sonar-style way, is I could figure out the shape an environment I'm in based on what NPCs I'm running into, because when something attacks you, it'll tell you the name. So if it's instead the named NPC, I was like, oh, I'm back in that area. Okay, so I know to my left, actually, there's a crevice and a wall. And if I go to the right, there's a way I can get out, and there's a pathway behind me. And I started to figure all these things out. And of course, TomTom actually has individual waypoints. So to get you back on track. So if you say you want to go back to the quest NPC because you finished the mission, it won't take you like directly there. It'll point you to waypoints which would guide you out pretty safely from being around there.
2 more. Dark Maul Plains. Underscore campaign quest turn in.
Whoa!
Austin Hardware. 1 more.
Well, he was right.
Prove Aubrey
Now,
patch
where's the
13.
rest of the expedition?
Underscore campaign quest turn in.
I'm not sure,
Experience. Quest
but I
frame.
know how
Quest
we
info
can
rewards
find
frame.
out.
Quest frame reward panel. Complete quest. Underscore campaign quest turn in.
Yes!
Pop-up
No
focus.
way! So overall, it became very apparent that if I was even remotely more experienced with this environment, I can see why people are able to do raids and dungeons like this, because all the tools I need are there. There were a lot of questions I had coming off of it. In fact, more questions than I suspected I would have. First of all, questions like, how do I assess loot? Or how do I know what I've picked up? Because ordinarily we would open a bag and see, like, oh, I have an upgrade, right? And when I finished my little expedition here, I didn't have time to do all of Exile's Reach, but the methodology was certainly working and impressive. Is I had some green boots in my inventory. I didn't know that. So how do I figure that out? How do I find out what my spells are? That was a big one. I got very lucky here because I was playing a hunter, and I essentially just used Steady Shot, which is your number 1, to kill everything. Now, that's not going to work out later on, and I couldn't really figure a way of figuring out what my spells are. And these were more questions. Like, I don't know what's on my bars right now. And one of the things I had to do was tame a pet. I know how to play World of Warcraft. And so I know that when you level up or you unlock new spells, it automatically puts them on your bar unless you disable that functionality. So I knew that, like, one of these was Tame Pet, but I didn't know which one. So I was, like, pressing 1 through 5 just sort of pressing buttons. And eventually I completed the quest. I was like, that is complete, pardon the pun, blind luck.
20%.
Underscore campaign quest turn in.
What? Did I do it? Okay, that was pure blind luck. I was pressing all my keys. Like actual blind luck. Like... I have no idea I'm supposed to know what my spells are. I had no idea I was taming a pet doing that, and if I didn't already know what I know about the game, that wouldn't have worked. So I double-checked this. I went to their Discord and had a little look around. Ultimately, it does come down to you probably will need some help at some point from somebody to assess what you've got. And things they recommended were really cool. Is like Discord has good accessibility options, so you can stream your gameplay to somebody if it's someone online. It's like, yo, can you help me out? I've been out playing for a while. I've probably got a bunch of gear. Can you help me out? And there are various other TTS add-ons where actually it will allow you to go through your bags and tell you what's in there and sort of read it out. And that's great. That's those tools I didn't have, but they have that functionality as well, so you can assess what's going on, and you can check your own character and figure out what you've got. Ultimately, you know, is it ideal? No, but of course, this is way better than just not being able to play. And of course, with very different levels of visual impairment, it might not be that big of a deal, right? As long as you can get going, at least you could do something and explore a game. And like I say, the most amazing thing that I got out of this is, despite the fact that I have done Exile's Reach in the past and I have a general idea of it, is by using this sort of system of imagination based on the feedback I was getting through audio clips and sounds, I was able to paint a picture of what was going on. And via the quest text being read out to me, I knew what was happening. I knew the Quillboars were doing ritual sacrifice and capturing people. And then I started to get this almost Dungeons and Dragons feel of I'm painting the world within my mind. It was really fantastic. So, as much as goofy it was to see me wander around, I have to say, this was really cool. And if you know anybody like this is just one of those tools in the box that's fantastic and also kind of important to show accessibility stuff. So I'm super happy to share this with everybody. Awesome stuff. Bye, guys.